Hello everybody, welcome to episode 9 of the tNb Gaming Podcast here on YouTube, and this is the Retro Bear speaking to you live from what is a very, very warm gaming pantry this evening, one of the hottest days of the year so far here in the UK. Bank holiday weekend, of course, which is absolutely fantastic because nobody can go anywhere and do anything because we're still on bloody lockdown. It's for our own good. And hopefully it'll be lifted sometime soon. But for the moment, we must sit inside our own houses and sweat profusely until we're allowed to go outside and get some fresh air. Hope you're all well, and this podcast finds you in good spirits. Once again, we are here to talk to you about the wonderful subject of gaming and all things related to it. This week is an extension of last week's episode, so I recommend you go back and listen to episode 8, and you might have an idea of what we're talking about, because we are going to be discussing the wonderful world of arcade games and all the joy that they bring, and probably some pretty ropey conversions to the home computer and console system. As always, I am joined remotely, and I think most people are being joining everybody remotely at the moment, by 3 of the tNb to discuss this subject. First, very good evening to Nath Retro. How are you?
Good evening, Retro Bear. Yeah, not too bad, thank you very much. It's bloody scorching today.
It's a warm day, and I should point out before we get too bogged down with this, we're having some technical problems, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that the hamster's overheated in the wheel and my internet, and yeah, you have to get a new one.
I heard you're on your last hamster, so we may or not lose you at some point. But we're going to start recording anyway and see how we get on. Also with us this evening, thank you, Nath, is Gernaldinho Plays. It's Rob. Hello, Rob.
What up, Mr. B?
How are you doing, mate?
I'm good. Thought I'd try a new intro there.
Yeah, keep working on that, mate. So
well, Word Up is a popular song that was covered by Mel B, who was formerly a Spice Girl and in the game Spice World.
I see you've mentioned that now. I'll have nothing to say for the rest of the podcast, which possibly will be a blessing in disguise, but we'll have to see.
Gears of War.
That's coming.
Pikmin.
Just like it.
And before we start chatting games at each other for the next hour, I'll bring in the third member of the panel tonight. It's Sean, Retro Games Revived. Hi, Sean.
Hello, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. How are you today?
Yes, I'm very good, mate. And yeah, it is a warm one, like you say, and it's warm in this room, but I'm all right. I've got a nice cool beer just to ease the pain.
There you go.
I've got a can of Monster.
Energy.
Do you find that usually helps getting completely drunk before you come on, Sean? Or is it just
Very much.
It makes it slightly more bearable, I'll give him that.
Yeah. It'd make me more bearable, but that's a joke in itself. As we always do, if you're new to the podcast, we just have a start off with a brief discussion of what we've all been playing this week, which from the pre-chat may be quite a quick whiz through some stuff this week. And then we sort of move on to the main subject of the cast itself, which said we've arcade games. I know, Rob, you've been playing some stuff this week, so if you can talk us through what's been in your disk drive this week.
Well, usual Xbox indie game live list. There's quite a few of those. The very first one was called, let's try and get this right again first time, I've been practicing. It's called Taimu Mari Complete Edition.
I thought I'd been practicing was the title of the game there. Which makes you wonder what that could be all about, yeah.
Yeah, another side-scrolling 8-bit type thing, but it's got a couple of side-scrolling shooter sort of stage in it as well, so there's a couple of odd different elements in it. Quite a long in-depth game, quite a lot of fun, that one. 4,000 G out of that one. I played a game called Doug Hates His Job. That is another indie game, so it's, yes. I was going to say, indie games have got some cracking names, they really have, some of them. But Doug Hates His Job is it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, which is obviously not quite as polished as some, but that has actually got some fantastic, again, sort of other elements to it. It's actually got an FPS section where he has to basically beat up moving printers with something in his hand. I forget what that is. And also, there's a little quiz section in it quite randomly as well. We have to get 7 out of 10 questions right to move on.
I tell you something. This sounds like an everyday occurrence when I'm at work. This does it. It sounds like the sort of game I quite happily enjoy. That coming home for a hard day at work. I'm lucky enough to be working at the moment. I know some people aren't, and then to come back home and put that on for a bit, it'd be brilliant.
So anything like Post from back in the day, Rob? Do you ever play that? on the
Play
PC.
what? Sorry.
Postal.
No, it's nowhere near that polished. Unfortunately, yeah, you can literally just, if you press the punch button quick enough, you can get through everything. It's not that difficult. It's not that great, to be honest with you. Other indie game I've been playing, Task Force Campers. That's a vertical scrolling shooter. Doesn't really offer anything more than anybody else does.
Task Force Campers. That sounds like something out of IDI.
But that was Read 2. That was one I actually streamed on YouTube recently. That's an 8-bit side-scrolling platform as well. And I think that's it for the indie games. But we have played some much bigger stuff. I mean, River City Ransom is technically an indie game, but obviously it's an old game that was on the NES. And I think when it was released over here on the NES, they actually changed the game's name to City Gangs. Is it something like that?
I think
it's literally the same game, but the conversion over here had its name changed. But I've never played that before, and I had a lot of fun with it. I really did. Fantastic little game, actually. Again, side-scrolling beat-em-up seems to be the theme of what I've been playing, by the way. But before we bring up two more, I played Star Wars The Force Unleashed, because I thought, well, it's May the 4th, I've got to join in with this.
Have you not played that before? Have you not played that before?
No, I haven't, and I'll tell you what, I played it for about an hour, and I really didn't like it. I found it
did you not?
quite dull, actually, because there was just... the stages were massive, and it just seemed to take ages to get somewhere, and it was literally just doing the same thing over and over again.
Is that game compatible with the Kinect or not?
No, that's not the Star Wars Kinect game. No, it's not.
I know, but it's not one of those which is better with Kinect.
No, it's not. No, it was out way before the Kinect was even dreamt of. Yeah,
I was really surprised at that, because having played the same game on the Wii, I mean, yeah, it is a bit repetitive, but it works quite well on the Wii. I quite enjoy playing that.
Yeah, no, it's just, I mean, I've got nothing against Star Wars, it's just not my bag, so it's always going to be difficult anyway, but, I didn't really get on with it. I did also play Unreal Tournament 3, which I absolutely really enjoyed, and Nath, you didn't need to mention it, because a great comparison with this game, because it's actually made by the same devs that did the original Gears of War trilogy, Epic, and it literally is a first-person shooter in the style of Gears of War. It's literally an FPS rather than third-based cover shooter. And the characters in it are just ridiculously looking like Gears of War characters. The main protagonist is basically a fusion of Marcus Phoenix and Dominic Santiago in appearance. And the suit he's wearing is like a Theron Guard wears in Gears 2. Literally, he's just plastered with Gears, but it's a different game sort of thing. It's an FPS. So yeah, naturally, I enjoyed that. Although the missions that you have to do, again, there's only like 3 or 4 different types, and they kind of rotate and they get a bit repetitive. I've also been playing Final Fight, because I've done another Fighting with 5 Lives, and that was the game of choice. So
yeah,
that
you did. I have seen that video go up. Yep.
That's really good, because I know Scott Sega Zombie responded to it, who, I'm a great admirer of Scott's channel, but there was actually 2 other people who I've never known before pick up on the video and say that they were going to do one, and they have both done one.
Are they?
So yeah, it's nice that it's actually reached out beyond sort of the community that that I already know of, sort of thing. I reached out to a couple more people. Yeah. So you can find their videos in the Responding to 5 Lives playlist that I have.
I'm fully aware that Harry and Meghan have a lot of times on their hands at the moment, so it's very good of them to drop in and have a go at that.
The last game I'm playing, I've deliberately left to last. I mean, yes, I had played some Gears 2 and 4, but we don't need to go into that. But the last game, I've left this one to last deliberately, because it is, of course, Streets of Rage 4. I played a lot of Streets of Rage 4. I have played through it 9 times to get a lot of achievements. Yeah.
9?
There's
very angry.
Well, there's 4 main characters. You then unlock Adam, and then as you play in it, you unlock sprites for everyone in Streets of Rage 1, everyone in Streets of Rage 2, and everyone in Streets of Rage 3. There's an achievement for completing the game with all 4 first characters, then the Adam you unlock, and then a Streets of Rage 1 character, a Streets of Rage 2 character, and a Streets of Rage 3 character. And I've also done a bit of co-op online as well. So yeah, I played through the game 9 times.
So I'm guessing you're up to Streets of Rage 14 now then.
But yeah, I'm ready for Streets of Rage 5, lads. Come on, get it made.
I must be honest with you. I'm not going to be taking the plunge on that, and I've seen it online. I've seen a lot of videos of it, and I think it looks really, really good. I love the art styling on it, but I'm probably not going to be getting involved in that one.
I mean, I loved it. I've got to be honest, I loved it because it is a Streets of Rage game. But the trouble is, I worried about is like should we say, the modern youth of today that that was my age that was playing Streets of Rage. When they came out, probably may not appreciate it and think, well, this is a bit nothing new. This is a bit old. But to me, it is beautiful. It is well balanced. It plays brilliantly, and some of the music in it again is just phenomenal. I loved it. There's one of the boss battle musics I absolutely adore.
I saw one game you always search with very good music in it, and I think we briefly mentioned it in our music episode.
Yeah, you mentioned last week because they've just got stellar music in it. But honestly, I if you like Streets of Rage, like the original trilogy, you're not going to be disappointed by this. If you ask me, I thoroughly enjoy. Obviously, I played through it 9 times. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't have played through it twice. Absolutely adored it.
And I think most people have been very much very favourable about it. I've not seen too many people sort of dismissing it or giving particularly negative response. Only the fact that I think it was yesterday or the day before when it came out, all that sort of controversy, rather than being a limited run game, it was now going to be majorly released and everybody can get hold of a copy or something. Was that right?
It's a game that deserves to be majorly released, to be honest with you. But obviously with Limited Run, they have obviously the Limited Run, it's in the name, but the reason why Limited Run can't make it on Xbox for things like that is because Xbox demand that you have a minimum production rate, and obviously that is much more than Limited Run want to make, so that they won't make them for the Xbox. I'm glad they do, to be honest with you, because it's just a minefield of collecting I never want to go into personally.
Yeah, it's one of those subjects that I think again probably requires a little bit more of a time of devotion to it. I know it's not something I know a huge amount about, which most of you would be unsurprised to hear that, but that is very much it. So what you've been playing this week then, Sean?
Have a guess.
I'll go with more COD.
I've been playing COD as usual, mate.
Are you getting any better at it?
No, not at all. Not at all. Don't matter what kind of gun I am, what attachments there is on it. I'm still rubbish at it. But I have moved on from Plunder, which is one of the games in Warzone, on to Battle Royale. I have been enjoying that a little bit more than I had done before. First time I played it, I thought, I can't get into this. But yeah, I have got into it a little bit more. But I have also played a real life game today, and it's called Wash Your Own Car, and I don't like that.
Isn't there a car washing game for the PS2 that Eddie got? You could play that, Sean. I'm sure he'll lend it you.
I'm waiting for it to rain again. I don't know. Just on the subject, you're saying you've been playing Battle Royale mode in Court. Yeah. Did you ever follow up that conversation that we had about a week and a half ago? I was talking about Battle Royale. And I mentioned them films to you. Not those films, not those films, the other films we were talking about.
Yeah, no, I didn't, mate.
You didn't?
Follow it up. No,
there you go.
I'll have to do it this time, mate. Yeah. Is that what it would call them? Battle Royale?
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah. Bit of homework for next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are the Japanese films you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, they're good.
Yeah,
I've only seen the first one, but it's good.
Me and Sean were discussing, I think, one of our failed recordings last week. Well, maybe this week, I don't know. I don't even know what day it is, this bloody Friday bank holiday. I've got absolutely no idea what day.
It's live as broadcast.
I know, yes. Sorry,
live as recorded.
I have no idea what day it is, help me. And we were talking, I mentioned Battle Royale. I've been talking wrestling at the time, and I happened to bring it up to Sean, and he'd never heard of those films before. So,
no.
It may have been it wasn't this week, I think it was last week. So, okay, so just the one game this week, and washing your own car. That's good to hear.
Washing my own car.
Nath, have you been playing anything this week at all?
To be fair, Sean, anything can be a game if you make it one like Mary Poppins says, isn't it? What have I been playing? Before we go into that, I just want to say Rob now has an excuse to play Super Dodgeball because it's a precursor to River City Ransom. I didn't want to interrupt him in that, but yeah, we can get Super Dodgeball in there.
That was one that you were playing a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what I was playing a couple of weeks ago.
Let me just check the Xbox store because there is a game titled like that. Actually, one of the 7 made available.
Super Dodgeball. Get on it.
I will have a look. Let's see if it's there.
While you're doing that,
whilst you're doing that, I'll tell you what I played.
Yeah, I do.
So this week, I played some more of Animal Crossing, which is
them pesky raccoons.
It's a blooming nightmare. apparently you can go to an island, collect loads of scorpions and spiders, and sell them for lots of money. Just like I don't know, just
a trip to Anglesey.
Yeah, something like that. Unfortunately, the buggers come up and sting you, and but you have to dig like a trench because they can't jump over the trench, and then you have to net them from the other side. Unfortunately, I'm shit at doing that. So, I've done it again, haven't I? Two in a row now.
Yeah.
This is how much it annoyed me.
Three strikes and you're out. So that's 2 so far.
So, out of like about 10 of them, I caught 2, and the rest just stung me to death. You can't die in animals. It's a kids game, but unbelievable. Like, I was raging at these blooming scorpions, to be honest. And I did something as well, because there's nothing like a bit of fishing to chill you out. But as well as that, I've played a bit of Streets of Rage 4 because basically everyone's playing Streets of Rage 4. And I'm surprised at that, Bear, because if you get games with gold, you get £1, you pay £1 for a month's free subscription, and you can play it for free.
How can how can I pay £1 for a month's free subscription? That doesn't work. I'm paying
it's
£1
not
for
free,
it.
it's part of your subscription fee.
You pay £1 and you play free for a month, all these games that are on there. Does that make more sense?
I don't know. That sounds a bit of a... What's in it for me?
Remember to cancel it, because it's not £1 every month. It's a brand new offer to new customers.
I need to do that.
Yeah, and what is it every month?
Depends on which package. I've got the Ultimate, which includes Live, Xbox Live, so...
And how much is that?
Mine's $11.99 if you buy the two together. But I think if you pay for it separately, it's a little bit more. Believe it or not.
Well, I won't be doing that.
You have to pay for Live, otherwise you can't go online.
But yeah, it's a fantastic game, Streets of Rage 4.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, yeah, it does look really good. I think, if I had a bit more time on my hands, I probably would go for it. But and if I was actually any good at it, so I'm probably going to say within that month's subscription, I probably wouldn't get through the game at all, and that would be it.
Yeah, you would. Rod'd help you.
Yeah,
Rob would
I'll carry you.
I'd carry you.
That's moving into a whole world of gaming.
Just stay on the left-hand side of the screen, and we'll just beat them up all the baddies for you.
Be like my own walkthrough. Just walk after everybody else.
And
You can be the heroine.
Yes, the Live Store does have Super Dodgeball as one of the 7 games. I thought I saw it.
There we go.
I'm going to work my way through all 7 eventually, because there's the achievements in them aren't too bad. But yeah, I will get to it at some point.
Oh, fabulous game, honestly. Really recommend that one. But yeah, that's what I've been doing this week.
Ah, right, lovely. Well, I've been playing nothing this week, so we'll move on to talking about. Now, I just have not had the time this week to even move the PlayStation back onto the floor, because I think someone's been round the pantry with the Hoover this week, and my PlayStation seems to have been picked up off the floor and put back in its pigeonhole. And I've been that lazy this week, I can't be bothered to take the PlayStation out of the pigeonhole and put it on the floor and press on. That's
normally, you're the one hoovering up the games normally. Hoovering up all the games.
I know. But my hoovering capabilities are dangerously low at the moment.
It's because you've got like 3,000 and you're just like, right, I've got to pick one. Oh, sod that.
Well, do you know what? I have been looking at possibly sort of buying some stuff offline. Online. That online
It's
shopping.
like my connections.
Yes.
Shake it all about.
Yeah, but I was looking at a copy of because I'm trying to sort of buy Master System games. So I'm quite angling my focus on that at the moment. And if I can get sort of boxed Master System games for a good price, I might get some in. And I was looking at Golden Axe today, which was on Amazon at £9. Someone sent it for £9, boxed, which is not a bad price. I think CXL there for 10, but this was £9 with free postage. Except that there were 2 of them. One was £9 with free postage, but it didn't have the manual, and the seller had got 100% feedback. And the other one was about 50p cheaper. Said it came complete with the manual, but it was from a guy with 88% feedback, including 3 this week saying, "I've never had my item." And I'm like, so I was like, oh God, what do I do? So every time I try and think about, I'll buy some games online to bring in and play. One, I think I've got 3,000 I haven't looked at yet, and 2, I haven't quite found the right deal yet, so I'll have to wait on that one. But I'm hoping to play some more games next week, because I want to do some stuff on video-wise for YouTube, which I thought about doing this week, but I just haven't got around to doing. And with the bank holiday, it's sort of thrown me a bit as well. So.
Yeah, it sounds like you had the option of no manual or just no game.
Well, yeah, and the shock of losing £9, which quite frankly would probably send me into a coma. To be fair, so
You'd be shocked at spending £9 on one game. I thought.
well, every now, well, look, I know this
Got cabin
reputation.
fever.
You know,
Stuck at home for too long.
Yeah. This reputation of being the tightest and cheapest man on YouTube, which is a reputation well earned, I think you'll find. But every now and again, I will, if I think it's something I really want, and bear in mind, I love Golden Axe, so it's a game I would want and I would play. I would justify spending something like that, especially as that was cheaper than buying it online from CEX and paying them £2. I would basically be saving £3, which is £3. But there we go. But I do spend more than that occasion. I know people give me a lot of ribbon about it. It's all good natured. So
I bought a game today off eBay, and I paid, if you count the postage, I paid £1 more for it because I can see it. I see it's in good condition. I see it's got a good condition manual, and they've got the disc upside down, and I can see that is perfect as well.
Yeah.
So, and it's one I don't see around a lot. It's called Anarchy Reigns for the 360. So I've ordered that for £1 more if you count postage from CX. So it's a good tool, eBay.
Yeah, and the good thing as well about the Amazon sellers is sometimes people are able to put photographs of what you're buying, which is great. And the one guy who hadn't got the manual, and it was a pretty good copy. It got the hanger on it, the manual, the inlays looked fine, the cartridge looked fine, the box wasn't cracked or anything like. It looks like a really good copy, just missing the bloody manual.
Sometimes it's worth a punt. I mean, like, I got that Wicked Monsters Blast on my last pickups video from Germany, and it had a stock photo in, and it said it was incomplete. It was in German, and it was about half the price, and it said it had the guns. So I was like, well, have a go and see. And it turned up fully complete for like half the price I would have paid over here. So sometimes it is worth the punt, but yeah, it can be pretty kind of like, well, am I actually going to get it or not?
It's like that copy of Xenon 2 I got on the Master System from CEX online. And when that turned up, it was, absolutely brilliant. It was a clean copy. Everything was perfect about it. And, and I bought another game from there, which was missing the manual and looked like it'd been picked out of a bin. But there we go. Beggars can't be choosers. It's one of those things. You pay your money, you take your choice, which is exactly bringing us beautifully onto our next subject. Because back in the day, when some of us were a lot younger and had more hair and generally didn't feel life as much as we do now, we were able to experience playing games in arcades, and basically the same sort of thing applied. You got your pocket full of 10p's or 20p's or 50p's or a quid or whatever it was, and then you just put your coins in the slot at a game that took your fancy, and basically you paid your money, you took your choice, and you ended up playing either a belting arcade game or something that was a complete steaming pile of cack. So what we've started last week talking about very briefly in our conversation about game music, which went on to talking about the music in arcades, which will sort of pull you in, and then going on arcade cabinets, is those arcade games that we played many, many years ago. Now, I've done a video response to Real Generic Demon and Retro 48K who were talking about their favourite arcade games, and I've done my list of 10 and an honourable mention, which is on my channel. I'm pretty sure you three haven't done one, have you? Is that right?
No, yeah.
I haven't, but I can't get it down to about 20, let alone 10.
20?
Just because of my history with arcades, can't get it down to 10.
Because from previous conversations we've had on this sort about arcades, that was sort of your first experience playing games, wasn't it?
It's what got me into it, yeah. I was going to say, my parents didn't want me sat at home playing games, so my only chance to get to a game was when we went away on holidays, and luckily enough, we went on quite a few holidays, but they was all in the UK, which, we was able to afford more holidays by doing that. And every year, from an age which I can't even remember because I was that young, up to like my teens, we never spent Christmas at home, and we always went down to Butlins Minehead. And luckily enough for me, that had its own quite big arcade and lots of little ones dotted around, and I used to look forward to that holiday the most because of this arcade. As I say, I memorised literally year on year what arcade had what machine, where it was, so then when I went back next year I had the excitement of working out what had changed. I'd go back and was like, right, well, Time Crisis used to be there, it's now over there, the House of the Dead machine that was there is now over there, where's that machine gone? That's gone. No, Pitfire used to be there. It's just gone all completely. And just think, honestly, I could do that, and all the other holiday locations that we went to more than once, I'd know how big the arcade. There's one place I hated because it had the poxiest little arcade ever. But fortunately for me, it was a games room. It was quite a long room as well, and they called it a games room. And in that games room was 2 fruit machines, which were 2p a spin, a pool table, and just 3 cabinets. But lucky enough for me, of those 3 cabinets, 2 of them were racing games, pole position and outrun, and the other one was Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, which was like an isometric beat 'em up. And I love that game.
Which was
so fortunately enough for me, when we did go there,
we
did go there.
Games, yeah.
There was that. But yeah, that's going to say that's why I'm into arcades so much. Like every weekend, because I live quite near to Southend on Sea, it'd be like, please can we go Southend this week? And like, no, we're going to go shopping in Hatfield today. It's like, no, I want to go Southend. But they knew. They gave in the end.
Do they sell hats in Hatfield? just wondering, otherwise it'd just be called Field, wouldn't it? Yeah.
This is my arcade history. And of all places I had to pick a place that's got a little small Sega arcade in, actually. But yeah, we'll go to all the big shops in Ilford. There we go. There's no arcade there.
Did they have a Sega arcade in Lakeside when you were a kid? Well, not a kid, probably been.
I don't know if it was a Sega arcade, but it had an arcade Lakeside.
Pretty sure it's a Sega one.
I can't remember if it was an arcade, but I know it was like right at one end by the doors.
Yeah.
But I mean, lucky for me, my neighbouring town, I say lucky for me, when I was at college, had a Sega park in it. It only survived 2 years.
I know he gets a mention every week, but doesn't Big Game Al have a Sega arcade near him as well?
Yeah, in Hatfield. He lives in Hatfield.
He did live in Hatfield, does he?
I think so,
yeah.
or nearby. He lives near the Galleria in Hatfield, and that's got a small arcade in it, very small arcade in it.
Right. Oh, well, there we go.
But my parents used to go there a lot, so actually that was another place I was like, well, that's like second choice, that'll do.
So this would have been when you were about how old?
Oh, very young. Very young. Yeah. It's to say the whole arcade thing was like literally from as early as I can remember, and British holidays everywhere I went.
So I think, yeah, I mean, I first probably encountered the arcade machine probably about early 80s. I'm guessing probably Pengo in the local chip shops. There was one in the chip shop. I still go into these days. I haven't got it anymore. But
if you're talking first arcade experience, it was walking in at a place where my mum and dad had a fixed caravan for 3 years before they sold that. The first arcade I ever walked into as a kid, I was just drawn to the Rampage machine because it had 3 joysticks, it had 3 monsters which destroyed buildings. What little kid wouldn't love all of that? And I was just hooked from that moment. So I always say I've been gaming since Rampage, basically. As soon as I saw Rampage.
And that's the sort of thing, because that sort of thing pulls you in, doesn't it? For me, it was penguins pushing blocks of ice around. For you, it was monsters destroying buildings and basically creating as much destruction as possible. What about you, Sean? What was your first experience with arcade?
I think my first experience was similar to Rob, where it was on when we used to go on family holiday, and we used to go to the East Coast. To a little caravan site called Barmston Beach, and it had a little arcade. And if I remember correctly, the main attraction in there was the Star Wars game. Cracking game, that wasn't it?
Was that the sit-down one or the?
That like a little cabinet one. Yeah,
they're worth a blooming fortune now. Those are, if you can find one in working condition.
Yeah.
Even not in working condition, they're a fortune.
Yeah. But also on the night time when we used to go to the club, in the foyer there was a bomb jack, and that's where my love for bomb jack came from. I used to. In fact, I hardly spent any money playing the game as such. I just stood there watching other people play. I was mesmerised by, these older lads coming up, putting the 10 pence in, and getting really far into game. And I used to look and learn, and try my hand at it when my mum and dad had said, "Hey, here's 20 pence. Go get your son off to a little arcade machine." But I think the main part of arcades for me were Bridlington. They had a few big arcades and all the latest arcade games, including at the time Space Harrier, Outrun, all the usual biggies.
Oh yeah. I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Like I said last week, the first thing you heard were the noises of it. I'll do it for Nate. of space out here.
We can make a drinking game out of this, couldn't we?
Yes,
Like
we
things that come back in. Finish
Well,
your
I've got to go
drink.
Rolling Star again.
So, but yeah, that was my first foray into arcades.
Right. And what about you, Nath?
So with me, I think I lived by a coast like when I was a kid. But I didn't go to an arcades that much because they're pretty much full of the penny push machines and not very much else, which is absolute cack. But arcade games that I do remember playing were more kind of in my teens, and that was pretty much the shooters that I played and the racing games, which kind of really drew me in. There was obviously your Time Crisis game, which you used to play in House of the Dead with a friend, and it was amazing. House of the Dead 1's actually a really, really short game by rights, but actually didn't get that far in the arcade.
I know what you mean. There were two of us. I was playing it with my mate, and we never got very far with it. It's like a running joke, but I ain't bothered about that.
That was
just the
just
enjoyment
really-
of it,
The voice acting.
really,
in it.
really cool game, though, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I think the second boss was probably as far as we got, and then I think is there only 3 or 4 levels in it? I can't remember now, but there's a boss rush at the end. No, there's a spider after the flying bad guy. I think it ever got as far as that. You'd have been pumping in these.
I don't think I got that far now. I don't got anywhere near there.
No, I never did. And
I only got that far as the game got cheaper as it got older. When it was £1 ago, never get there. But once it dropped down to
Stretch
30p
out.
and 5 for £1, could get there.
It took me 3 goes to get past the insert coin screen, but there we go. Sorry, Nath, go on. Yes.
No, that's about right.
Yes, it is, yes. And people sitting there going, yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. Yeah.
You'd love Arcade Club. You just touch it, and it's like credit.
Yeah.
It's made for you there.
I wouldn't know what to do.
You have to pay the admission fee, though.
What? There's an admission fee?
But anyway, before we get completely off topic again,
Yeah.
Time Crisis. I remember playing there with the pedal, absolutely amazing because
Oh,
they had
yeah.
the guns with the kickback, and having a kickback on a gun was just mind blowing or something like that. And I always used to play with a friend. You had the blue gun and the pink gun, wouldn't you? I mean, like, who would want to be the pink gun? Like, it's like, oh, that's a manly pink gun, but that was so Sega. It's fantastic.
Gives the
And,
enemy false impression.
yeah, pink bullets. And what was the other thing that I remember playing? I quite like the kind of racing games. There was a couple I played. There was one that I remember quite vividly called Lucky and Wild. I had to actually look it up. And that was... How do I describe that? So that was a driving game. where
I've
you
heard
had-
Yeah,
similar
I've
to
heard of
Chase
that.
HQ or something.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually, it's kind of like Chase HQ, but not. So you are in a police car. There's you and your friend next to each other. You're the driver, and there's a kind of a handgun that's fixed in place, kind of like the Operation Wolf machine gun. You can kind of turn it left and right, and just about up and down, but it's pretty well fixed in there. It's fixed to the console, and one's the driver and has to drive, and the guy next to you just has to shoot. So you drive and shoot, they just shoot, and you're driving along in what I think is supposed to be, a open top Ferrari or something like that. And the enemy's like throwing flaming barrels at you and things like that, and you have to take them out pretty much like HQs, like shoot them until they give up. And then you go to like a drive-through with all these kind of girls who give you fries and milkshake through where you're entering at the end of the level. It was so cheesy but so good. So those are one of ones. And one of the other ones that I played, which I absolutely loved, was Ridge Racer in the arcade, because
Who
it's
didn't,
just
yeah.
fantastic. I played it was the dual cab one, where there was just you and your friend next to each other. I don't think, although there was a clutch on that, I don't think it really did anything. But we'd play it in manual, me and my friends, and just race around the track, and it would just be down to the person who just made a mistake as to who would lose.
Yeah.
If somebody made a mistake, then they would lose. You'd have the blue car and the yellow car, and that was for racing around there.
I used to find that things like clutches and brakes got in the way of those sort of games. Just like, I'm off. That's it.
Who wanted to use manual in racing games anyway in the
I
arcade?
did. I did.
Yeah.
I just gave it.
I just want to
made it-
drive, put my foot down, let's go.
No, I wanted to make it one more interesting, because if you're a manual, you'd have slightly more speed as well than the
I'd say
automatic.
The only time I ever used manual was Daytona, the first one, because you
Yeah.
just had to leave it in fourth on beginner anyway, and you went a little bit faster.
But that was kind of my kids like thing, and then kind of got back into it a few years later, which was around when Run 2 came out in the arcade, and I freaking loved that machine. I think when I was like into game time, I just got in it. I think I completed it on 1 credit, got used to it, and now it's on manual as well. Now I went back to an arcade club, and I'm shocking. Everyone beat me.
Did you lose twice now?
Yeah, everyone beat me. Everyone beat me.
Was it just Sean, Nate?
Was it just Sean? Did I lose to Sean?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I lost to you as well.
Well, to me, I got it Eddie.
Yeah, that's one that stung more.
I thought one was in demo mode. No.
No. I was beating Eddie every sector up until the last one. Just overtook me the last. I think he picked a faster car. Not done bit. Or making excuses.
There is no worse feeling when you're playing something like that. I'm thinking back to sort of like Daytona or Sega Rally, where you've got the light that flashes that says race leader.
Yeah.
And you get a really tight finish, and you daren't sort of look up to see where you finished, and the person sitting next to you is like going, I've beaten you by half a nose on a car. It's infuriating.
Every sector until the end, and I lost. And I was like,
I forget the technical term for it, but a lot of games have where the second place car or the person who's behind, basically they have it so you're actually going a little bit faster.
Catch up mode.
Yeah, they basically have a catch up mode. So if you're not winning,
or bad programming, as I'd like to call it.
They try to make it competitive, and so that people losing don't get bored.
That spoils it now.
Some games do that. Some games don't. They're just like, well, you're crap. Stay there.
I think that's always, just before we get back on that. It always comes with Mario Kart. You can guarantee that the further down you are, the more likely you are to pick up invincibility or the rocket, or the blue shell if you're playing Mario 64 or whatever.
You're that bad.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're winning. You just get one banana skin all the time, didn't you? It's like, great, thanks.
Which is ideal if you're Donkey Kong, but if you're not,
or Banana Man.
Oh, banana.
Oh God, here we go.
Rob, I just remembered when you were talking about Daytona, I had this little Laser Quest guy place that had a Daytona machine when I was a kid, and I remember playing that and absolutely shocking at it. But that was an amazing cab. That wasn't an open cab. That was just a kind of upright one. But so many good races from memory from childhood.
Well, so obviously I brought it up last week that I come across an 8-player one from the original one, and that was just the small chairs. And I actually remembered long after we went off air where that was. I think it was when I went to Thorpe Park one year. They had the 8-player there, but they also had somewhere, I've seen that as well. This will probably come to me later in the night as well. But they had like a 4-player, but the big car versions. I've seen them as well for the original Daytona. So I mean that was a sight as well. But I actually really like the second Daytona as well, by the way. The second Daytona was a fantastic follow-up. That had awesome music as well.
I never played that.
Oh, it's almost a shame that I don't think it ever had a perfect port somewhere, the second Daytona.
No, I never saw it in the arcade. I only played the first one in the arcade. Never saw the second one. That might just coincide with me sort of dropping out of sort of going to places like that. Because I used to play a lot of Daytona around about sort of the end of 99, early 2000, when we used to go bowling, because there used to be I think it was pretty much a Daytona every single bowling alley in the country, and that's what we always used to end up playing.
Yeah, it was one of those.
Shortly that's why I stopped doing that.
It was one of those breakthrough driving games, wasn't it, Daytona? That just caught on to everybody, and even the casual game, even people who didn't like gaming would see this game and thought, "Oh, that looks like fun. I'll have a go at it."
Yeah, especially when you're half drunk at 4:00 on a Sunday afternoon.
Exactly.
And you got work the next day. You think, sorry, I'm just going to carry on doing this. It's great. Now, of course, I mean, in terms of arcade games, that there are, so many we could talk about. Genres, I think, probably would be best to split it down into.
Well, yeah.
I don't, so we can sort of try and cover as many as we possibly can.
Well, we're on races. I mean,
racing games. Yeah, it's a good point to start in it. Should we sort of go in there? So we've obviously mentioned Daytona. I mentioned Sega Rally as well.
And Sega Touring Cars.
So I never played Sega Touring Cars either.
I always sort of, I always think of Daytona, Sega Rally, Sega Touring. Always think of those three together, because a lot of arcades had those and had them at the same time.
I mean, there was Outrun as well, wasn't there? Nathan mentioned Outrun.
Outrun.
We played Outrun at Arcade Club. Oh, Power Drift, yeah. Power Drift. Could you mention that? Because you bought the 64, the 64.
Why'd you bring that up? That made me sick, Power Drift. Like there was a hydraulic one at Arcade, and it just flipped you on your side. I think you said, or Eddie said, come over and try this. And I was like, I'll hold your drink. And I was like, thank God you did. Because it literally throws you over one
Just
side,
throwing
throws
them
you
out.
over the other. You come off and it's like, I actually feel quite ill now.
Oh wow, that sounds tremendous. That sounds tremendous.
It was next level. It was very
It
cool,
was.
but it was intense.
I mean, the tracks were laid out like a roller coaster anyway,
Yeah.
weren't they? So the cabinet moved
Oh.
just as
That's
those
fun.
hills did. It was a really good game. Can anybody remember Rad Racer? I think that were another Sega racer.
That was,
heard of
it was
it.
Radmobile, wasn't it?
Radmobile, sorry. Yeah,
Was
yeah.
that the one with the Sonic the
Yeah,
Hedgehog?
with the Sonic
um,
hanger.
That's it.
Where he
Yeah,
made his
yeah.
first appearance. Yeah,
first appearance, wasn't it? Yeah.
but
Really?
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
played that one.
Before he was ever in a game.
It was, from what I remember, they said it was a fairly nondescript game at the time. It wasn't particularly outstanding for any reason,
No,
but
no.
it had got that Sonic mascot on the sort
Yeah.
of windscreen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just bring it up again, Scud Race. That was another unreleased one. I don't think it's ever had a port. Scud Race was fantastic. Very high octane.
Because we mentioned that before we came on, and I said Stun Runner,
Yeah.
which was a sort of a futuristic.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a racing game, but it was sort of high, sort of 3D polygon graphics. It was very
Yeah.
quick, if I remember, and it was sort of like a bit like Tempest, where you're in a tunnel going up and down the sides,
Yeah, that's right, Russ. Yeah.
and then of course the brain cells are trying and convert it to the home system. So I can't imagine how well that runs on a Commodore 64. But
Not very.
Scouring through my list of Commodore 64 games I've got, I do actually have it.
I
So-
can't remember that one.
There's a video in the making, I think.
But
yeah,
You did bring up in your arcade machines one that's a little bit obscure that not many people know that I know very well, and that was GTI Club.
yeah.
It's such an obscure little racer, and I loved it because there was just 101 shortcuts on every lap, wasn't there? On every race.
Yeah, and it was just the point racing games there were sort of about big cars, and sort of rallying and or championship racing. This was just basically sort of like little GTIs, bombing through sort of Mediterranean towns, shortcuts down the side streets and things like that. Absolutely
Sounds like
brilliant stuff.
Yarmouth.
You'd be winning and you'd think you'd have it nailed on.
Yeah.
And then the guy behind you would know a shortcut that you didn't know about, and all of a sudden he's in front of you and you're like, what
Yeah.
the hell?
To the petrol station, rather than go all the way around the outside and do a handbrake turn, you can sort of cut
Just-
to the petrol station.
Just set down some stone stairs.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how, what?
And the jumps as well. You sort of come around the corner and do a jump, and you can sort of see the whole sort of basically like looking at like Monaco below.
It was
And
a
it's
cracking little
just
game.
brilliant.
It just didn't get the attention it deserved. I think people saw the little cars and went, oh, there's one over there with a Ferrari. I'm not playing that.
Yeah, and it was a great little game, got completely ignored, and it's incredibly difficult to track down on the Wii now. It can go for anything sort of between 10 and 20 quid. I think it's about the 20 quid mark at the moment, but there was a HD remake when not long after PlayStation 3 started up. I remember, I think we downloaded the demo for it, and it was only available for a limited time, like the Afterburner remake, which I missed out on. And there's another arcade game there, Afterburner, which
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Oh, it's so hard.
Oh,
I was going to say, by the way, we were talking about driving games and didn't even bring up Crazy Taxi, which is legendary.
Oh yeah, Crazy
Absolutely
Taxi.
legendary.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
to say it.
No,
I
I
like it in the arcades. I couldn't do it in the arcades. You had to do the boost thing to get flying start basically on that, and you had to do skid turns. And I couldn't do it in the arcade. I couldn't do it the same way I could do it on a controller.
Well, you say that
was-
I'm the other way round. I play it on my Dreamcast and I struggled to do it. But back in the day on the arcade, it was a doddle. Complete opposite.
Chase
Smashed it.
HQ.
Chase HQ, yeah, and special. Is it special?
Special
crime
criminal,
scene
special criminal investigation.
Yeah, that's very similar as well.
They were slightly different, though, weren't they? Because that was sort of two genres in one. Although it was a driving game, it was also sort of a police action themed type game as well.
And then you had the top-down version, APB.
Oh,
Remember that one?
Yeah.
APB
yeah.
Cop. Because when I was playing Rampage, my sister was playing that, so that game holds a lot of dear memories to me. Because that was probably the second game I played, because my sister was always playing it. I've got to give this APB a go. And yeah, that was when I realised that there was more than just Rampage, because literally I would just head for that every time, and that got me into playing lots of other stuff. But yeah, what a game that was as well.
Yeah, one of my absolute favourites is Super Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I think a Final Lap that was very similar as well.
Yeah, and the great thing about Super Monaco Grand Prix was the fact that you were sort of like at every sort of checkpoint, it would sort of reduce the position you had to finish. You couldn't finish in. If that makes any sense at all.
Oh, right, yeah,
Oh,
let you know you
eliminate
weren't
the
gonna
last car.
Yeah, so if you start on the grid 12th, you couldn't go below 13th or the game would finish. So you go up the field and you sort of be in 8th, and then all of a sudden the place you could drop to would sort of cut from 13 to 11. So you were sort of not only racing against a time, but you're also racing against sort of an elimination from the race. And I never felt the Mega Drive version was all. I got the Mega Drive version. I never felt it was all that great, but they did include a rather fantastic Grand Prix mode with that game, which was absolutely brilliant. But I used to love the Super Monaco arcade. It was really, really good game.
I used to love my little Game Gear port of Super Monaco GP. It was one of the very first games I got outside of what it came with. And that was that was fun as well.
Very good.
That was more memorising corners over that because you was on a handheld. You had to look at the map and know what was coming a lot of the time. It was tough as well. It was tough to win the championship on that.
I mean, there's been so many. I mean, I dare say there's literally.
We haven't even touched on bikes.
That's another sort of bikes. I mean, Enduro Racer. Does anybody remember Enduro Racer?
Yeah.
Because some people tend to forget that one. They sort of talk. You talk about bike games. You talk about Super Hang On or Hang On, and everyone ignores Enduro Racer.
And Max TT.
Yeah.
They're the two big ones. But there was also obviously I brought a Final Lap, which was a Sega sort of Formula One game. But they also did one again called GP Rider, which was basically doing Final Lap with bikes.
I was looking at
Literally,
that on the Master
it
System
looks
today.
the same as well.
I was looking at the conversion of that on the Master System.
Yeah. And there's also Atari did one as well. Something Burner, it was called. Road Burner or something like that. Atari did one in the arcades as well.
Road Blasters?
No, it's definitely something Burner. I think it was Road Burner. Very distant memories of that one. Obviously, I'm struggling to remember the gameplay, but I remember the cabinet.
I mean, Road Blasters was a slightly different, again, variation on it.
We're driving, stroke shooting on it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Road Burner.
Was it?
Yeah. In the arcades.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I sit corrected.
And obviously, I remember that because it used to leave a trail of fire behind you. I think if you did something or all the time, I can't remember there either. So it's a very vague memory, but I remember it.
88.
Sorry.
If you get to 88.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. Back to the Future. Yeah. Do you disappear as well?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of some more.
Continental Circus. That had a 3D visor, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Originally.
Because we had a discussion about that, didn't we? Because I'm glad you mentioned the 3D things. I completely forgot about that. But I mentioned to you that it should have been called Continental Circuit.
Yeah.
But it got mistranslated. So it became Continental Circus, which is completely different.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
But it was a great little racer, that one.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that was a similar. Sorry, Rob. It was a similar sort of thing. It was where you had to sort of reduce your last finish position by each race.
Yeah.
So the first race you'd had to finish in the top 80, then it would be the top 70 or 60, and go from there. And it was quite challenging. And if I remember as well, in terms of the damage to the vehicle, so you'd hit something, you'd have smoke on the back of it, and if you didn't get to the pitch, it'd catch fire and blow up. And that was quite different at the time.
It would emphasise more with 3D effect as well, wouldn't it? With smoke and sparks and fire. Yeah.
And one other one I mentioned very, very quickly, just the same sort of thing. Anybody remember WEC Le Mans?
Yeah,
I remember Le Mans Racer, yeah.
Yeah, because
a Le Mans racing game, yeah.
No, isn't if I remember correctly I never played it in the arcade. I only played the absolutely god awful Commodore 64 version, which has some fantastic music. But honestly, don't play it. Turn it off after you loaded it, just to make sure it works. It had one of these hydraulic arcades. I'm not sure whether you just spin round.
Oh, I don't know that.
But I remember seeing when it was advertised as coming out on the home system. I'm pretty sure they put a photograph of the arcade machine on it. I'm pretty sure it was one of those spinning hydraulic jobs.
Yeah, you might be right there, Russ. Yeah,
I might be right. I could be wrong.
I was going to say,
I may have made it up.
I've just had three more pop into my head, and it's because they've all got the same style of cabinet, so one led to the other two. But if I said to you, obviously we're still on races, but upright cabinet with 3 driving wheels, what games would you say?
I'm thinking of Off-Road Racer.
Super Off-Road is the obvious one.
I think I know the 2 you're going to go with, but go on.
Oh, go on then. No, go for it.
Actually, I could think of 3.
Yeah.
Super Sprint.
Yep.
Indy Heat.
Don't know that one myself.
Badlands.
Don't remember it. Badlands, yeah.
Yeah, Badlands and In Heat were very much the same sort of thing, but Badlands had more weapons.
But yeah, you had weapons on it, and you could shoot the person in front of you. Super Sprint, you basically could upgrade, couldn't you, after every race?
Yeah.
And then Super Off-Road was just the best one.
Yeah.
I loved it. I absolutely adored that game. And I tell you what, it had such fantastic ports as well. I've got Super Off-Road on my Game Gear, and it is a belting port. And that's on the Game Gear. Honestly.
I don't think there is a bad port of Super Off-Road. I really don't. I mean, I think I've got the NES version. I'm pretty sure I've got the Commodore 64 version. And there may be another one lurking somewhere which I can't see at the moment. Possibly on one of the Midway or compilation ones I've got somewhere. I don't know. But I don't think there's a bad version of it.
No.
It's a really playable, fun game.
I just remember playing that game, and you'd be in the situation where you're like, I'm saving my turbos. You get to that last lap, and you realise you was in trouble. So you would just spam it, and this little thing would go absolutely flying, bouncing off walls, and then you still wouldn't win anyway because you'd left it too long. But absolutely loved that game. I really did.
Yeah. Some cracking games there. Nath, we spoke beforehand about some of the SNK stuff that you wanted to have bring into this conversation, because that sort of takes us into a completely different area, although very much sort of focused on the arcade side of things.
Well, yeah, I come across this recently because I've been looking into like Neo Geo stuff, and I came across that they're doing consoleized versions of MVS systems, and this is something I completely wasn't aware of, but obviously Neo Geo were massive in the arcade market and used to have the arcade board in the machine, so you could just swap out the cartridges, and they'd have multiple ones that could hold more than one cartridge. And because Neo Geo AES consoles, which is the home console, are so expensive, what they've actually done is over in China, well, maybe over here as well, they've taken out the arcade board from the MVS machines and consoleized it. So they're basically taking it out, added in a super gun, which is just supplies power to the arcade board.
Wow.
And controller ports as well, and effectively turned what is an arcade board into a consoleized machine. So we'll play that, which is amazing, I think. I just only found out about it recently and done some research looking into it. It's really quite expensive still, but cheaper than actually getting one of the AES consoles if you can get one. And the games are just phenomenally expensive.
So I remember when Neo Geo came out and we saw those prices in the magazine. They were ridiculously over.
Yeah.
You know, it was like £400 for the console and £250 a game. So, what?
Mental.
Yeah. But what sort of price are we talking then, Nathan?
Well, even now, the cartridges are still really expensive. Some of them cost thousands and thousands. Yeah, some of them cost thousands. They're really expensive. It's crazy for what they are. But I think the arcade ones, I think they do an arcade cartridge, which is still cheaper. I think to get a consoleized version, you'd have to be looking to import it from China, unless you know someone over here who can do it. But I think that would still be about £350 plus import tax or something crazy like that. So I'm not sure. Well, it's still an expensive consideration, but you can actually get an arcade's a cartridge to go in it that apparently has 161 games. I think only 80 of them are proper usable games, but still amazing that people are actually doing that with arcade boards, and something I just never would have thought until I came across it. So yeah,
that is something else. I mean, I would have thought the price would be a little bit cheaper on those, given
so
where we
did
are.
I.
But given, I can't see me owning one of those anytime soon.
Well, the actual boards themselves, the MVS boards, I think are only about £30. I think they're only about £30 to actually to buy. You obviously have to pay import tax on it as well. But I think it's the extra work that has to go into making the thing called the super gun, which I ain't got a clue on how to make. There are some pretty clever people out there, but it basically supplies power to the board. They've taken it so you have fully composite out on the machine. So you wouldn't have composite out on it before. You just have a SCART out, and you'd have to run it through an OSSC. But that blew a few OSSCs up, so people aren't doing it anymore. But yeah, to have the composite mod, to have the controller mod, because it will have Neo Geo pads to fit in it from the CD, but it's actually got a Saturn one as well. The one's actually the ones that cost money. I think if you just decided to buy the board and do it yourself, probably cost you a lot less. But ask me how some people are doing it with PCUs out of home computers and doing it. some crazy stuff.
There's some very clever people out there, I tell you that.
Yeah.
It is something else. Yeah.
Blows
But
my
of
mind.
course, the library of games they had as well. If you're talking
Yeah.
about arcades again, it's just ridiculous.
Well, that's
Neo
the
Geo
thing.
stuff.
It just people want to get it back now. Neo Geo, it's a bit of a unicorn in a lot of respects, isn't it? It's like the cost of the consoles, the cost of the cartridges. I mean, now you fortunately have things like you can get them on Xbox Store. You can emulate them through the Wii. You can get other devices.
Yeah,
You watch the Pandora's box, you can do it like that. But I don't know. There's something about having original hardware, isn't there? Sometimes, I mean, like as stupid as it sounds, for how much it costs.
That is an argument if you're doing, how retro do you want to take it? You can do all the emulation and stuff, or you can run the original hardware and
spend a fortune.
Either way is absolutely fine. There is arguments on both sides of it. Of course, anyway, they play proper arcade games. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to say, ultimately, you can get things like that on the Wii and that, can't you? And to you can get like greatest hits and things like that, SNK hits and plug collections and what have you.
That's right, and there's always that to go down as well if you just want to play those particular games. And most consoles have probably got a collection for it. Of course, the other way to do it is sort of have you buy yourself a cabinet and sort of do one up yourself and have it that way and have the real experience.
Yeah, or a Raspberry Pi sort of Mister's devices, things like that.
That's it. Or you could build it out of an old wardrobe like our friend Dave did. Just remember to take the shirts out of there first, and you'll be all right.
No, they keep them in there. They're all on the floor now.
Joking apart, I do rag on Dave a bit, but I tell you something, that was a really, really quality piece of work.
He's done really well with that.
I was absolutely, I was jealous of that. I'm not going to say that about Dave, but I was jealous of that.
It's all right if you got the room.
I'd make room for something.
I'd love to have the room.
Yeah,
I'd love to have the room to have a cabinet, but like I said, I was telling Nath earlier about, I've got them all on the Xbox Live Store, and you can pick all the Neo Geo games up for like £4 something each, and I'll say there's over 100 of them on there. So I've just got all the classics,
It is nice that they're bringing back some of these arcade games so you can actually play them on consoles. I mean, you'll never get the experience of the things like the cabs for racing and things like that and what have you, but
yeah, I know, but we did always want
the
perfect port at home, didn't we? Always wanted the perfect port at home, and now we've got it. Bring some of these systems
back to your home and, build a Raspberry Pi or a...
Oh, gone again.
I suspected he couldn't hear you. There, we nearly made it an hour.
Nearly.
Yeah, but I suspected he couldn't hear you because he was talking and you were talking. Now he's come back there. Hello. I suspected you couldn't hear Rob because he was talking and you were talking at the same time, and then halfway through your sentence you disappeared. So
I think he probably booted me.
Yeah, I know.
Disrespectful.
What's he saying? Yeah.
Sorry, Rob.
That's
no, I was just talking about them all being, we always wanted arcade perfect ports at home, and now we've got it. And it's ironically that you could argue that's possibly ruined the arcades because they're not the same as they were today. Like I was saying, having all these Neo Geo games, I've got all the Metal Slugs, all the King of Fighters, all the Fatal Furies, all the Art of Fighting, all at my hands right here.
Off your hands. Strange place to keep them.
Well, you only see my hands, don't you?
That's true. Let's move on to another genre. We've sort of discussed that sort of side of things. Platform games.
I don't think platforming games in arcades weren't really big, really.
Were they not?
Not so. Well, I always think of the big three in the arcades was also races, which we've covered. Obviously, your light gun games and your fighting games. They're sort of your three, really.
But then you think of games
they were
like...
platformers, but they were more run and gun, weren't they?
Well, it depends what you class as a platform game. I mean, Sean said Bubble Bobble, which would fall into that category.
Bomb Jack.
Yeah.
So if it's one screen, is it a platformer? Well, then you got Donkey Kong, so that's a silly statement. Ignore that.
Well, Donkey
Joust.
I always see platformers, get from one end of the level to another, and it scrolls. But yeah, there are platformers on one screen. But yeah.
So you're chucking. So we chucked in Bubble Bobble. You're chucking games like Rainbow Island and New Zealand Stories. They're sort of very much the similar sort of genre and that sort of thing. But then again, where would you stick something like Alter Beast? Would you stick Alter Beast in a platform game or are you going to call that a sort of left to right scrolling beat?
Scroll and beat 'em up, yeah. Which itself is another genre which has got a ton of games in.
Yeah, I mean, those
That
sort
was-
of things are very difficult to categorise.
That was a classic. That was when you became the dragon in later levels. It almost became like a shmup because you had to like shoot a boss that was firing things at you. You had to move around the screen and like hurl fireballs back at it.
I never played the arcade. I played it on the Mega Drive, like most people probably did.
Well, yeah, that's me.
I also had the disappointment of playing the Commodore 64 version as well. I don't know what it was. The Commodore 64 some shocking conversions. It really did. I mentioned Enduro Race earlier. That was shit. Sorry, Nate's broken the rule on that word now, so I'm going to keep using it.
2-1.
WEC Le Mans was not much better. Alter Beast was absolutely terrible. Afterburner was terrible. I don't know what it was about that machine, but just thinking at the top of my head, Alter Beast was absolute horrible game. But a lot of people do like that game, and I think it gets very. It probably is one of those games which over time has got sort of tarred with a rather nasty brush, which it probably didn't need to be. There's probably a decent game in there. It's not, a 5-star classic, but those people who do like it say it's a good game.
It's really early on in the Mega Drive, though. Altered Beast, wasn't it? That was really early on.
What is it? It was a packing game, wasn't it? Originally, before they
it was
put
a
Sonic
packing
in.
game, yeah.
And most people unpacked it and took it back again. Something wrong with this, mate. It says arcade quality on here. Yeah.
I'm trying to think how early that was, because I think that predates Sonic, and it's probably around the time of the first Golden Axe, wasn't it? So,
I'm talking, 1990, 89, 90, possibly. Yeah. So
I think it's
88.
I think it is fair to say that like platformers do include what you've just said, because Sonic is a platformer, isn't it? And that's from the side view. You're running along platforms,
and technically you're jumping on stuff, so technically you're killing it along the way.
Yeah.
So.
You got things like Shinobi and was it Bad Dudes as well?
Shinobi's a good analogy of that, because it's the same sort of thing. It's
Ghouls and Ghosts.
Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose when you go side scroll beat 'em up, you sort of add the element that you can go up and down in it, don't you, as well, as side to side.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just you're talking about bad conversions earlier. I mean, Final Fight was one that never had a good conversion for years until the Mega CD got hold of it. Everything sort of before that was sort of rubbish.
But we'll talk about another one of those very similar games in a moment when we get on to sort of the fighting style games, which I'm sure most people know what we'll be talking about. But yeah, your expectations of what games will be converted to on a home system were sort of dashed when your particular computer of choice or console of choice got a really sort of shonky version of it.
Yeah.
I'd hit ragging on the 64 because it's my favourite computer of all time, but we mentioned Chase HQ earlier. Anybody's played that version on a Commodore 64, you have my greatest sympathy, because it was an absolute turd of a game. It really was, and it shouldn't have been. It should have been an awful lot better. And there was nothing worse than guaranteeing that your favourite arcade game was going to end up being picked up by either Melbourne House or US Gold to do a conversion. By which you find yourself sobbing into the pages of C and VG as everybody else laughed at you.
But we did that. It was rose tinted, wasn't it? We loved this arcade game, and the fact we thought we could go home and play it on our 8 or 16-bit consoles and it'd be just as good. It was. We were a little bit deluded at the time. Sometimes it took a while. For me, there was a point in the PS1 era where arcade ports became, damn it, as near as, this is actually like playing in the arcade for me.
But I mean, would that surprise you that you're talking possibly, sort of 5+ years later, that you're eventually paying something which is technically arcade perfect? Should technology by that point have not gone past that? Because don't forget, sort of around about the mid-90s, arcade games weren't the driving point for the home market. Back at the end of the 80s, it was, as I said, you always look forward to the games you played in the arcade coming to your home computer. By, sort of fast forward to the mid-90s, that had more or less stopped. Yeah. So, you would play something like Sega Rally and Daytona. We keep picking up on those games. And Time Crisis. You would have played those in the arcade, and those things would eventually come out on PlayStation and Saturn and what have you. But that became few and far between the point, and then sort of more original gaming titles took over, and the arcades died off.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
they did,
arcade
yeah.
ports getting perfect that has ruined the arcades to a
Yeah.
degree. So I remember the days when I used to go down the seafront. You walk in one, there's hundreds of machines. Now, when you go in them, it's just full of fruit machines and the machines that give
Yeah.
you tickets and, like
Marbles.
Dave said, the penny pushers as
Penny
well.
pushers, yeah.
You know,
And Dance Revolution. And
it's just
See-
the odd driving game. The odd
Yeah.
interactive game. But the days of just having these single, cabinets stood upright that that look like the one-ups, that aren't that, in a row, rows and rows of those are just gone.
God, nice.
Yeah.
I was going to say, sorry, Mark, I think we missed out on things like the PC engine over here, which actually could home convert some of these arcade games into really good graphics.
Yeah.
That's a system we kind of missed around that time because we were still going around with the 8-bit systems, like you say, like the Spectrum and that, and they had the PC engine. And that's like incredible graphics by comparison. It's next level. But yeah, I mean, things like when you had the things like the Sega Saturn and you had Virtual Fighter, things like that, things that you could play in the arcade, you could play the same kind of thing at home. And that may be the kind of turning point of when things started to decline a bit for the arcades, unfortunately. I don't know.
I mean, you even had computers, Amiga and ST, which were more powerful machines that could, if programmed properly, they could have, got close to these arcade conversions, and they just failed. And that's a big shame, really. That these powerful machines, well, it's not the capability of the machine. I reckon they could have pulled off some really good conversions, but a lot of time it was programming, or more importantly, time constraints that the programmer were given, because the publisher wanted this game out. And testament to that is recent remakes of games. I mean, if you look at a remake of Bonjack, Commodore 64, it's near arcade perfect.
When the original version was a complete,
dire.
It was dire. It was a horrible version of it. Yeah.
I'll say for me, the more modern era of that moment I spoke about earlier, where I can pinpoint for me, it was like, wow, the arcades really are coming home. I mean, I had, this isn't the moment, but I had Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat 2 on my Mega Drive, and I knew that they were close and they were good, but they were a tiny bit sluggish in comparison to the arcade. It's not comparable. It's a 16-bit machine. But the moment for me that I realised that it was there or happening was when I had the PlayStation 1 and I had the first Ridge Racer and the first Tekken on the PlayStation 1, and to me, to find a difference, I was splitting hairs.
Yeah.
That was for me the moment I realised that the arcade, was coming home. And of course, for me, I always say this: best machine for arcade ports ever. I think Nathan knows where I'm going with this. Dreamcast. Every arcade port on the Dreamcast is fantastic.
Yeah.
They nailed it. And of course, I know I don't know the gubbins of it, but it basically has the chip in it, to do that and do that well. The Crazy Taxi port on there is
it's amazing.
Is unreal. It's just perfect. It is perfect. But there we go.
I think they had it with the Saturn as well. Sorry, Bear. I was going to say, I think they had it as well with the Saturn, but not so much over here with the 2D fighters and things like that. Looked absolutely stunning on the Saturn, but just wasn't launched as much over here. But it is that generation, Rob. You're right. The
PS1 era.
Yeah, PS1 era, and then moving on to the Dreamcast and things like that. Pretty much perfected it.
I just remember Tekken 2 and then 3 on the PlayStation 1 as well. It's just Tekken 3 was the one that just absolutely blew my mind that the PlayStation 1 could do that. And I always say that's the best of the game of the franchise as well.
Couple of other genres which we sort of skip through. I want to get in because I just try and cover as many genres as we possibly can. I mean, we may not get a chance to go into too much depth about them, but the two that probably most people are sitting there thinking, talk about these, you morons, are beat-em-ups. Or fighting games, and also, as Rob mentioned earlier, light gun games.
Well, we just touched on beat 'em up, so maybe go into that. I mean, we can rattle off the obvious ones that everyone knows, like your Street Fighters, Mortal Kombat, Killer Instincts, Tekken, Soul Calibur. They're straight away the obvious ones that everyone thinks of. I mean, when Street Fighter 2 obviously wasn't the original game, when Street Fighter 2 hit the arcades, it was a phenomenon. No one had ever seen anything like it. Bringing on the head-to-head aspect. Truly for the first time. Obviously, it wasn't the sequel, by the way. The first Street Fighter game actually was developed it was developed with two pads that you actually punched rather than press buttons. So that for me, Street Fighter 2 is the best sequel ever because of how bad the first one was and the game that Street Fighter 2 was.
I've always been surprised that Street Fighter 2 actually came about because Street Fighter was so bad.
Well, obviously, Final Fight was going to be the sequel, wasn't it? Going to be Street Fighter 2.
I have no idea.
Yeah, no, it's a true story, yeah. And then they renamed that Final Fight, and then Street Fighter 2 became Street Fighter 2. But obviously, it's still going today and stronger than ever, stronger as ever.
Mhm.
And there's Double Dragon as well, which is
We're going side scrollers now.
But it's the same thing. It's beating people.
But I just think the step ups as well, like Mortal Kombat to Mortal Kombat 2. Mortal Kombat 1 was great, but it was controversy. But Mortal Kombat 2 was just fantastic. It was the best Mortal Kombat game for years until Mortal Kombat 9 came out, on the 360 and PS3. In my eyes,
Mortal Kombat 9. Goodness me.
It's just called Mortal Kombat, but it's affectionately known as MK9.
Hang on.
I mean, I still play 10 and 11, but I still
That's a
prefer 9.
postcode in Milton Keynes, that is.
Hang on a minute. Have we drawn level with podcasts as there are Mortal Kombat games?
No, it's up to 11, Nath.
Oh.
Ah.
11 came out last year. But, I don't know, Soul Calibur. Obviously, originally Soul Edge. That was ported to the PlayStation 1 under the name Soul Blade. Honestly, sorry, I'm off here. I love fighters, you know that.
Weapons, Rob?
Sorry, mate?
Was that one where you fought with swords and whatever?
Yeah, you had Cervantes,
yeah.
Killick, people like that actually had weapons as well.
Yeah.
Voldo, the guy that had 2 sort of very large Wolverine-type claws.
Ivy.
It's the kind of whips with little spikes on it, whatever they were called, Siegfried.
Nightmare.
And of course,
Hated
Nightmare, who actually had the weapon.
And you mentioned Killer Instinct earlier. I always get Killer Instinct and Primal Rage confused.
Primal Rage was that was that. Yeah, when that first released, that turned heads a little bit because it was something different. But I've got to be honest with you, I never really got on with Killer Instinct. I always found it quite clunky, and I never really liked it that much.
I think I ever played either of them much at all, to be honest with you. I got Killer Instinct on the Super Nintendo, but I don't know. I never particularly like that sort of genre of games, and mainly because I ain't very good at them.
We know you love Street Fighter, really.
Yeah, I've got.
But
I've got that many Street Fighter games.
Then we go into crossovers as well. One of the games I used to play a ton of back in the Sega park that was in Harlow when I was at college was X-Men vs Street Fighter. Absolutely blew my mind.
You see, I can never see the point in that. I don't. Why would that
Marvel
game...
vs Capcom?
Yeah, why would that game appeal to somebody? To me, somebody who thinks I'm particularly interested in that. Why is something like that going to, sell it to me?
I think it's because they're aiming at fans of both franchises who just can't see them being fused together, and then they make a game of it, and it just works. It was one of the ones that worked really well.
I want to see Marvel versus Nickelodeon. That'll be a good one.
You keep plugging for that.
Yeah. Anyway, you're listening. There's a money winner there. I'd very much like to see Hulk versus SpongeBob.
Sure. I rattled off all those games earlier. Didn't even mention King of Fighters, which is fantastic as well.
King of Fighters.
King of Fighters, yeah. That was the first proper team battle game that I ever remember.
Oh dear, mate. I don't know. Yeah, it's a genre. Yeah, folks, I appreciate that a lot of people out there like those sort of games. It's not my sort of thing. It's not here for me to, sort of put my own opinions forward and whatever. But no, I just can't get on with them. I think if I were better playing at those sort of games, I might enjoy them a bit more. But I just don't get them.
But yeah, no, I think obviously I was watching Danish Street last night, and I asked Dave Perry which one he thought would be, which out of the 4 main ones would be his favourite, and he said Street Fighter 2 without a doubt. And the answer he gave was so diplomatic and brilliant. It was just to do with basically he brought in the human element to the fact that it's it's simple enough but also complex enough with basically a strategic nature to it, and bringing in the human reaction to it. Everything that you could do could be countered, and you could almost sort of strategize and have a battle plan as such as the fight was going on. You could see what they was doing, and then you think, right, I know what to do here next. And it brought back a sort of a tactical element to it, and it says it's the most balanced fighting game ever, pretty much. It's fantastic. I was going to say, I was waffle on about Gears of War and how great it is and how much I love it. But if you put my head on the block and say, what's your favourite franchise of all time, without doubt, I would have to say Street Fighter 2. Oh, well, Street Fighter, but Street Fighter 2. Absolutely loved them.
Turbo?
Don't call him that.
Turbo, Hyper Fighting, and then you start going on to Street Fighter 3 and the Alphas. or 0 if you're in the NTSC region.
Oh, that's a podcast for another podcast.
So should we go on the side scrollers, Bear?
Yeah,
You
what
like
was
side
Sean going to
scrollers,
say?
didn't
I
you?
want to know what Sean was going to say there.
Yeah, go on, Sean.
Oh, sorry, Sean. Yeah, cut you off, mate. Sorry.
I was just going to go on about strategies and tactics, and mine's just hit the buttons like mad. No,
You're a button basher.
I'm a button basher.
I like
Easy
to know
prey
what
for the
I like to know what they do before you bash them. That's my problem. If I just adopted the Sean, be more like Sean.
Yeah.
Just mash the joy pad every time you play the game and see what happens. That's a good idea. I might try that.
That's how you play with Eddie on Tekken.
Yeah, quite. By the way, just for those, it doesn't mean the Eddie that's normally in the podcast. He means the character within the game. Don't start bashing Eddie. That's a bit unfair.
No, I did meet Eddie.
Oh, sorry. Wake up.
So that's beat 'em ups done. I was going to light gun games. We mentioned Time Crisis. I mean, House of the Dead, Lost World, Jurassic Park, which I brought up in my video response, which no one seems to have played apart from me.
Vampire.
Do people know how many House of the Deads and Time Crisis there are? Just out of interest.
I think there's five Time Crisis games and 4 House of the Dead games.
You impressed me, Mr. Bear. Yes, there are.
Was it really? I was just guessing that to move on.
Time Crisis, there is 5, I think. Yeah.
Is there?
But,
I think.
yeah,
I'm certainly where there's 4. So if there was 5, then yay me.
Time Crisis 5. The House of the Dead, there's 4, but Nave touched on it the other week. The third one had shotguns, and then the fourth one had the little handheld Uzi machine guns.
Yeah.
And then the first 2 were just standard guns. But if you want to go back to which...
Yeah, but the zombies have evolved over time, so you need more powerful weaponry.
So have we. But this is going back to nostalgia. When people say what's your favourite House of Dead, it's not necessarily the best one. I always say the first one. Just because I have so many nostalgic memories of the first one, even though I know the second one is a better game. Probably is the best game of the 4.
I would agree with that, and I did Master 3 on the Xbox with the joypad.
I didn't like the shotgun one. I just found it a bit of a hindrance.
I
just like aiming off the screen and carrying on.
I have to say I really like the second one because that was a home conversion on Dreamcast, so you could actually play it at home. So for that reason, I really like that one. I didn't ever get that one on the Saturn.
And of course,
the Saturn one's as good.
And you can get it on the Wii as well now, can't you? House of the 2.
Yeah,
House
2
of
and
2 and
3.
3. Yeah,
indeed.
And I'm equally bad with the zapper on that as I was with the guns in the arcade.
Did anyone ever play Vampire Night in the arcade? Which it's on the PS2 as well now, so you might have
that rings a bell with me.
Yeah.
No.
I think I may have walked past it in the shop.
See, there was a bowling alley that was near me that had a little set of arcade machines, and that was the only shooter one they had there, and it was basically like House of the Dead game Star. Pretty sure it was Sega as well, and it's on the PS2. But it was shooting vampires instead of shooting zombies, and yeah, still a pretty cool game. I like that one.
I know the one you're on about because I think I have seen it before. I thought I had it, but I hadn't. And because they came out, would have come out with the G-Con 45-2, wouldn't it, for the PlayStation 2?
Well, I haven't really played in the arcade, so I don't know.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they brought out a light gun. Because G-Con 45 came out for the PlayStation 1 when Time Crisis came out.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they brought out a G-Con 45-2 for light gun games on the
2.
PlayStation 2. And I think I mentioned again, Big Game L mentioned that there were a couple of the games on the PlayStation 1 with the Gunfighter, The Legend of Jesse James, apparently is a light gun game as well, which I don't think it was an arcade game originally, which completely moves the point. But
arcade conversion, Point Blank.
What a great game that is!
Point Blank.
yes.
I was going to say, I'm sitting here waiting, so we've got to talk about Point Blank.
Yeah.
I adored that game.
Yeah, I had that PlayStation 1. It was brilliant.
I know which
Absolutely
arcade in Southend had a cabinet of that which everybody forgot about, so it was always free. And I used to go in that one every time and hunt it down, and it always was.
I used to love that game.
What a game!
Absolutely
What a
superb game. That.
Again,
Absolutely
another one with the
superb.
recoil as well.
Yeah.
It added to it. It really did add to it.
Yeah.
What about Mad Dog McCree?
Oh god, that's awful.
Oh, that was bad.
I haven't seen that machine. You could just watch someone else play it, and you could eventually learn what to do as you went along.
Yeah.
And again, for the uninitiated, there is a version of that on the Wii as well, which I think is just a straight copy of that game and another. Was it another? Did they bring another arcade game out for that as well? without
There is
me
a
having
Mad
to.
Dog McCree 2, but I don't know if it was ported or anything.
If I can get it off the shelf while you three fill for a minute. Well,
So, talking about shooter games, maybe slightly considered a shooter, but Silent Scope.
Silent
Anyone?
Scope with the actual,
yeah,
the
Silent
actual
Scope,
rifle.
Yeah, you had the rifle butt in your
Actual rifle.
shoulder.
I'll tell you something. Sorry to interrupt, Nathan, but a friend of mine liked that game a little bit too much. We sort of said we know he's going to be in his 30s. He's going to find somewhere, a town somewhere with a church spire in the middle, and he's going to go up there and pick people off. It hasn't happened yet. There is still plenty of time because he's still alive. But
Do you remember how you would get an extra life in that game?
No.
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 Yeah.
You'd perv on women like in their bedrooms through their windows.
Oh dear.
Honest to God, you'd have to like search on this woman like in a bed. I don't know whether they're naked or anything like that. But yeah, that's how you would get an extra
I think we
life
just
in
found
it.
out why your mate likes it, Bear.
I was going to say, I think there might be people taking notes at home when you mentioned that, mate. So, I've got the Mad Dog McCree game off the shelf. So it says the Mad Dog McCree Gunslinger Pack. And my failing eyesight, it says, includes 3 games on 1 disc: Mad Dog McCree, Mad Dog 2, and then something else, Bounty Hunter. God, I really need to get my eyes tested when lockdown finishes. That's where the glasses for decoration. I can't even work out what it's called. Mad Dog 2 and then Mad Dog... Oh, it's called... Bounty Hunter. The Last Bounty Hunter. Anyway, there's 3 games on it anyway. I was quite fortunate to get hold of that one. I think probably the last one we need to touch on is shooters in terms of sort of R-type games.
I was just going to say, before we move on,
missed them,
does anyone remember Gunblade, by the way? I loved Gunblade. Does
Yeah,
anyone remember that?
Gunblade, yeah.
I don't.
because that will bring in things like Super Thunderblade as well.
No, Gunblade is another shooter, but the
Yeah.
guns
It's
are mounted like they are in like Operation Wolf, but they're little machine guns.
There is
And
a
the
version
camera
of Wii,
angles
isn't
sort of swoop round, and as if you're in like a helicopter as well. But you go really low to the roads and round the corner. The sights are like in Virtual Cop. The sights are like that as you're aiming for things. But there's another game we didn't even mention shoot as well, it's Virtual Cop.
Oh yeah.
But no, I just want to say,
yeah.
I remember that game. That's a little bit more obscure, and I just wondered if anyone else had heard of Gunblade.
I've only heard of the version that's on the Wii.
Right, it's probably a port.
Yeah, there's two games on there. I think it's Gunblade and another one which I can't think of at the moment. It's quite odd. It's quite an expensive game to track down as well. So we move on to R-type shooters. So I guess we're talking things like Salamander, Blastoids.
What was the one that had this
Asteroids
double wide
itself,
screen
Space
that was
Invaders.
actually a reflection in a mirror to make it look right? I've seen that. That's a massive cab. It's super wide. I saw it in there's a channel I'm subscribed to called Ghost Lord 000, and it's basically the Galloping Ghost arcade. And I saw it there, and it was massive. But that was your typical R-type game, but I can't remember what the game was called. But fantastic, yeah. Unique cabinet.
I don't know.
That's
Let's
a genre I struggle with. They kind of all merge into one a little bit.
They do a bit, don't they? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I saw R-type and was Darius an arcade game?
That's the one I was on about. That's the arcade game.
There we go.
Galloping Ghost had Darius.
There we go.
But yeah, it was a double width screen, but because they didn't want, you couldn't just put 2 TVs next to each other. They had a mirrored reflection to make it look bigger. But you could go on to. Honestly, it was fantastic how they worked it out. Obviously, the technology back then, they had to do that. Fantastic piece of kit.
I mean, which did you prefer, Guy? Did you prefer the side-scrolling shooters or the vertical scrolling shooters?
I think the vertical ones were because there were a lot of side scrollers. So when you played the vertical one, it was just something a bit different. There's one I'm trying to think of, which I played.
1945.
Yeah, the 1942, 1943 rock hard games. Flying Shark. Yeah. That was one I remember. What's the other one?
What's one with helicopters?
Thunderblade.
What, top down?
Silkworm? No.
Tiger Heli?
It changed in its perspective.
Tiger Heli, yeah. Tiger Heli was one.
No.
We've
so-
researched this really well, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Do you remember these games? No. I didn't.
Should we move on to sports? We haven't even touched sports.
I'm just trying to. There was this really old vertical scrolling shoot 'em up that I played, and it was given away free with the ST. I'm thinking Battle Squadron, but it's not.
I'm struggling. I've got some Neo Geo ones that I can remember, like Ghost Pilots, but was that top down? I can't remember.
No, I've got a version of it on the Commodore 64, but mine doesn't work properly. It just keeps going on forever. But I can't remember what it is now. Yes, the sports games then. We'll finish off with sports, shall we?
Sports games. Well, can we just bring up my love for Virtua Striker 2 off the bat? Because, I'm going to bring it up. I absolutely adored that game.
Well, if you're bringing up Virtua Striker, I'm going to bring up Virtua Tennis.
Yes. The only tennis game that is ever any good, in my opinion. I think you agree with me, don't you?
I do. I wholeheartedly. In fact, I think it's better than actual real tennis.
It's awesome. Again, it's just arcadiness and beautiful. Got me words stuck a bit there. But yeah, Virtua Striker 2.
Sport games.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, there aren't that many. I mean, obviously, there's.
How far you go back?
There's a golf one, isn't there, where you got the trap ball on it? Sure. Is it Golden Tee, is it?
Does anyone remember Alpine Skier, where you could actually stand on a pair of skis and hold some handles and you actually move the feet from side to side? Remember that?
Yeah.
Or was it Alpine Racer? Is that what it's called?
I think it was Alpine Racer, and I think there was a snowboard version as well.
Yeah, and a skateboarding one as well, because you love your skateboarding games, don't you?
I love skateboarding games.
Tony Hawk's Racer.
Yes.
Tony Hawk's Racer.
Yeah, that's my ideal. Tony Hawk's dies a painful death after falling off a skateboard.
But we're talking about arcade games. We can't talk. Do anyone remember that game? It was a massive TV screen, but it was a ball on a bit of string out the front of it, and you had to boot it as hard as you can and try and score. They had it every seafront.
Is that the same thing with the punching bag? Yeah, you sort of punch the bag and.
Oh, Mega Blast Man! They had to recall a load of those because they didn't make the foam in it thick enough, and people were breaking their hands. True story.
Right. Fist of the North Star. I remember that one. We're talking about a punching game. That was classic. Did you play that
Sonic Blast Man. That was it. Yeah.
Of
course.
I didn't play that one, Nathan. Which one was that one?
Fist of the North Star. Yeah, I think that's an anime that was done from, but that is a punching game. I think you had to punch certain bags that come out, and you had to punch them at certain points. You had too high, too middle, too low. You had to punch at certain points to beat your enemy, and then you had like a thing where you just had to punch everything as quick as you can to get as many punches in as possible for points. I remember that. That was a good workout.
I don't go to arcades to work out.
No.
So it's far too much effort. But so we need to go back to some of the 90s football games. Like, was it? What's the football game? Tecmo football. There was one like that, wasn't there?
Is that a top-down version?
No.
I'm sure there's one with the track ball as well, like that.
There was one. What was the one Sean brought up a couple of weeks ago? Was it?
Football Champ.
Yeah, Super Football Champ, where you had the guy that could do absolutely stupid moves to score a goal if you got the right parameters during the game right. You used to flip upside down, and the keeper would slide back into the net, trying to save it. But yeah.
I think, in all fairness, that sports arcade games really are few and far between, because we are sort of struggling here.
It's almost like I could think of a load, but I just can't think of what they were called. I've got all these ones pictured in my head. There were loads of football games. What was the funny enough, the SNK ones that we talked, not SNK, Neo Geo.
Super
Sidekicks. That's it. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was weird. You could knee players and you could barely get booked for it. Just do the jumping knee to win the ball all the time. Fantastic.
It's slightly against the rule, though.
But
different times, Russ.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Play on.
Yeah.
Are there any sort of really quirky? Because obviously in the last one at the end I brought up Prop Cycle, but any sort of really quirky cabs before we go, before Sean starts laughing about sort of pig moving racing. Pigs in front of you in an appropriate manner. But obviously, we touched on Prop Cycle where you actually had to cycle, didn't you? And pop all the balloons.
Oh yeah.
What a great little game that was.
It was a good game, but like I said it last week, it was really hard work. Obviously, the faster you pedal, the faster you go to collect more balloons, pop more balloons, I should say. Quirky cabs. Can anybody remember R360?
R360.
Yeah, the Sega R360.
that
I
was
thought
my
it was about
360.
postcodes again. Yeah.
I was going to say, I've got one right in front of me, a 360.
I thought you just said a
Your
PlayStation.
360. Yeah.
It's like
the only
our
one I've ever
PlayStation.
seen.
Is that?
Sorry, Russ. Sorry, mate.
The
Oh, I
only
just
one
got-
I ever saw was at Scarborough, Olympia Leisure arcade called Olympia Leisure, and basically it's like it played G-Lock. I don't know if you've ever heard of the game G-Lock.
Yes, and followed up
Play-
Afterburner, wasn't it?
Yeah. It played that, but you sat in this cabinet. You actually got strapped in, and it did 360. It rotated on all axes, completely upside down. It actually had to have an operator taking your money, strapping you in, or at least the developers. That were a guideline.
Was it like a
I
little
mean-
sitting in a gyrosphere, basically, wasn't it? Was
Yeah.
That...
That's
It's coming back to me now.
Yeah.
I was too scared and young to go on those. I thought I'll be sick if I go on that.
I loved it. I never bothered with the actual game. I just pulled the controls to spin myself around upside down. Sub-plate game. Just spin this around. It's much more fun. Back then it was £2 a go, so it was quite expensive at the time. But yeah, that's certainly one of the quirkiest things. One of the biggest machines I've seen anyway. Arcade game machines.
The only
One of
other
the-
quirky arcade thing I can think of is the virtual reality where you would put the massive headset on and you'd stand in this little circle. So obviously you didn't go wandering off and bumping into people, but the floor would move with you as well. And obviously,
Yeah.
they were. You think of what VR is now, but back then that was revolutionary.
Yeah.
But what you were seeing was such a basic polygon game as well.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah,
were
well.
quirky. Did you have one, Nave? Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was thinking probably one of the coolest arcade machines I played actually was at Lakeside in Essex, and I don't know if anyone will know the name of this one, but you were basically, I think, in charge of. I think it was a tank. It's either a tank or a mech, and it had 2 control sticks, and it had your rockets, your machine guns, I think, on it as well. And you would actually have to like turn it to rotate it, so it was almost like it had a massive screen in front of you, it's 360, and you were kind of in a bucket seat with your feet up, and it would vibrate along with the game, and with you shooting, it would you'd get the recoil of the shots and things like that. That was an immense machine. I can't remember the name of it. I've kind of tried to remember it, thinking, is it a tank? Is it a mech? But I can't remember. But that was an intense arcade machine. So good. I remember playing that. That wasn't all that long ago, actually. Well, it might have been.
Yeah.
But
There's also Eddie mentioned it over a week as well. Time Traveller, which was like an holographic game.
Oh yes.
Yeah. It was one of those like Dragon's Lair where you've just got to move or press the right button at the right time. Sort of pretty limited, but it was just the feature of having holographic graphics on the screen.
So ahead of its time.
Yeah, it was, Rob. Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean, because you could actually reach out and touch them, obviously, but your hand would go through them. You'd be like, "Oh, this is amazing!"
Yeah.
But the machine was so big as well because of what it was doing for the time. It was huge, and these little people were in front of you were taking up a sort of smidge of the machine. But yeah, no, I remember that, mate.
Yeah.
So I remember when Butlins Minehead had that machine, and I was like, "Whoa, this is the best thing ever." But it actually wasn't. After you played it, you got bored of it quite quickly, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it. It was actually designed by Dragon's Lair creator Rick Dyer, so that's where the inspiration obviously came from him. But yeah, Time Traveller, that one.
Oh, well, I think that's probably a good point to wrap that up then, guys, because we've pretty much exhausted a lot of genres there and a lot of arcade games. I dare say there'll be some glaring admissions, but obviously you can tell how well we've researched this episode beforehand, and if we'd known what we were doing before we came on, we probably prepared our answers a bit better. But that is how we do it here on this particular podcast. We fly by the seat of our slightly tattered pants.
Can I put one more question to everybody before we sign off? Just one more. Even though we didn't touch the side-scroll and beat 'em up, so bring up the Turtles or the Simpsons because we know how great they are. I just want everyone to pick a favourite racer, a favourite light gun, and a favourite fighter before we sign off, if you can.
A favourite one?
Favourite racer, favourite light gun, and a favourite fighter. If you can.
Okay.
If I can, okay. Shall I go first then?
Yeah, go on,
If you've
Nathan,
got
yeah.
one, mate, fire.
So I would say I'm just going to have to go nostalgia here, and I'll pick House of the Dead 1, Ridge Racer, although Outrun 2 is such a close second. In fact, I'm going to forego my fighter and say Outrun 2. There we go.
Are you not going for a fighter?
No, I'm going to say Outrun 2 instead of a fighter because I much prefer the races.
All right. Well, fighter's obvious for me. It's Street Fighter 2. The light gun, I'm actually going to just edge out House and say Time Crisis 2 because I played so much of it. And Racer's a horrible one for me because, yeah, I'm tempted to go Ridge Racer. But I'm going to go Daytona. And I want to say 2 because it's the better game, but I am going to go for the original because of the nostalgia side of it. So Daytona, Street Fighter 2, and Time Crisis 2.
John?
Yeah. Racer, for me, has to be Outrun. Just a classic game. Light gun, I'm going to have to go with Point Blank. Just the fact that it's so much fun.
Damn it.
Forgot. Fighting game. We're not talking one-on-ones. How can we have the side-scrolling?
Yeah,
fighters?
anyway, go for it.
Vigilante.
Vigilante, yeah.
I
you
used to
mentioned
love
that,
that. Yeah, I used to love that game. So that's my 3.
And so to finish off, I would say Racer for me would be Sega Rally.
Yep.
Light gun game would be Lost World Jurassic Park.
Oh,
Because
that's not what we didn't touch on.
yeah, well, I've mentioned it in my video. I didn't want to sort of go.
I
through
mentioned
it
it last week as well, didn't I?
Yeah. We were fumbling around for that one, weren't we? And then I mentioned what it was. And fighter, I'm going to go with Double Dragon.
Oh,
Nice.
Classic.
Because yeah, I mean, and it's got to be the arcade game because it had so many tatty conversions. It really did. There are some good ones out there, but I have fond memories of that game, and one of those which is probably best experienced in its arcade original form if you can. And there we go. That I think rounds that one up very nicely. The other games covered, like I said, probably missed a fair few out, but if you want to listen to a well-prepared podcast, go somewhere else.
I'll say that every Sunday at 7.
Yeah. Bear in mind, this is the third time we tried to record it this week, so we've had a few problems. Every Sunday night at 7 is when we upload this podcast, and we hope you would have enjoyed this as much as we've had making it, as always. A couple of things I want to mention. First of all, congratulations. We've mentioned him about 5 or 6 times. He'll become his own podcast very shortly. Congratulations to Big Game Al, who won the YouTube of the month for last month. And I just want to mention the 5 channels he's nominated, because a couple of these people are friends of the show. Hang on. Don't spoil the surprise for anybody who hasn't heard it. So I'd like to say thanks, congratulations and well done for being nominated. Retro Red Steve, Kieran Retro Reclaim has been nominated for the 2nd month in a row. Carl's Room 70, Raz Tendo, and our very own Gernaldinho Plays, Rob, has been nominated for YouTube of the month.
Yes, thank you, Al.
Yeah, and first time you've been nominated for that, isn't it, mate?
Yes, I feel like I've sort of because I'm probably the first YouTuber who doesn't appear face on screen for what is years and years, probably a decade. I think someone did it, which brought in the on-screen presence rule. So I feel like I broke through a glass ceiling a little bit in sort of people that film like me, but just a little bit of recognition. So to me, I've already won. Because I mean that in the sense of being nominated for how I do videos. I don't need to actually go on and win the month now. For me, I've already had a victory. So I'm already pleased. But
it's thoroughly well deserved, mate. And I hope Sean will probably agree with me this one as well. I just want to give a personal thanks to Pete Armour, on a Retro Tip, who's very kindly including myself and Sean in his latest YouTubers to watch under 1,000 subscribers. And I know me and Sean are very, very appreciative of that, Pete. So if you are listening, mate, thank you very much indeed for that as well. So it's been rather a good week for us, in all fairness. And we've got a very important 10th episode coming up as well, which I'm not going to go into too much detail about just yet, but we are going to be throwing it open to questions from the audience. If there is any audience out there, I don't know, maybe just me making a load of questions up and pretending people are actually sort of tuning in. But if you are able to think of anything or come on with some questions, please do. That'll be the 17th of May, and we'll hopefully release some more details through social media and the various outlets that we use during next week when we finalise what we're going to be doing for that. So there we go. Longer episode than usual this week. I know some of you are sort of angling for us to do a bit longer, so I hope this goes some way to satisfying that curiosity and making you realise that it is going to be an awful long time to fill for 2 hours, and we haven't done it very well, but we'll probably get better with time. I would like to thank very much the panellists, as always. Firstly, to Gunadina Plays, Rob.
Thank you very much, Bay. Yes, take care all.
Thank you very much, Nath. Faith Retro.
Thanks all, and stay safe.
And a big thanks to Sean, Retro Games Revived.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ross. Can I just say congratulations to Al and good luck, Rob.
Thank you very much, mate.
You can, and you did. So they used to say on the local radio, isn't it? Yeah, can I say hello? So yes, you have done. There you go.
Hello, Mum.
And now I'm going to play Club Tropicana by Wham on the way out, as we say. Thank you very much indeed for tuning in this week. This is the Retro Bear speaking to you, sweatier than usual in the gaming pantry, saying thanks very much for listening, and we'll speak to you again very, very soon. As always, do take care, stay safe, and bye for now.